This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Wednesday, the 10th day of March in the year 2021. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here's what we're tracking tonight. Former Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission, Trevor Ben, was this morning arrested by the Guyana Police Force. News Source has confirmed that he was taken to the Criminal Investigations Department of the force to be questioned about various land deals done under the APNU-AFC government. Mr. Ben is said to be cooperating with the investigators and has so far denied the allegations put forward against him. The former lands commissioner was arrested in connection with the leasing of 6 acres of land at Ogle on the east coast of Demerara to Janico Vine Engineering Limited. Ben is being accused of defrauding the state by inducing persons by false pretense, knowing that the land is owned by the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Company, which is the government's holding company. He has denied the accusations. Mr. Ben's arrest is coming at a time when the government has been accused of embarking on a campaign to repossess public lands, which were issued by the APNU-AFC coalition government. Several businessmen had already been threatened and taken to court over lands they acquired under the former government, while others surrendered their lands. Ben was fired back in November as commissioner of the Lands Commission. His entire secretariat at the commission has since been dismantled, with the staff members who worked under him also being fired or forced to resign. More news coming up in just a moment.
Guyana, we've been through it all.
But as a people we have
weathered every storm
And risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
All the people,
regardless of race,
class, or religion.
we are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
Taste the cheese, you hear the crunch. Grab a zoomers and zoom into fun. And with the first taste, you feel like you don't want it done. Blast off to a whole new place with every single bite. The cheesy goodness bring your taste buds alive. So let's just zoom into fun with this wheel-shaped light. Zoomers, zoomers, zoom into fun.
Contributions online? Simply visit our website at www.nis.org.gy. Click on the Create New Account button and enter the required information. An automatic email notification will be sent to acknowledge your application. Once your information is authenticated, you will receive an email within 48 hours with instructions on how to access the site. Once logged in, you can click on the My Contributions tab on the left side of the screen to view your contributions. For further information, you can call our Records Department on 225-2798 or visit your nearest NIS office.
This is Annie Bina. She's a clothing designer. She also likes to hang out with her friends. However, a life-changing event is about to occur. The mosquito that bit Annie Bina is infected with a tiny worm that causes lymphatic filariasis, also known as filaria. But what is filaria? Filaria is a disease that affects a person's lymphatic system, causing legs, arms, breasts, or scrotum to swell and eventually remain in a swollen state that cannot go back to normal. Filaria shows no symptoms during the early years. Untreatable chronic symptoms can appear as late as 20 years after infection. Since there are no symptoms in the beginning, most infected persons do not know they're infected, like Annie Bina. When the symptoms begin to appear, nothing will be able to make them disappear. Are you sure that you've not been infected like Annie Bina? What can you do then since you see no symptoms? Take your pills. Prevention is the best cure. A message from the Ministry of Health in collaboration with PAHO WHO.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right. Walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong. Be the one to live right.
Mom, what are you doing with GPL on your list?
Child, you forgot I have to pay GPL?
You got time with GPL?
I have to keep these lights on. The customers who think in that manner and refuse to honor their obligation to GPL are obviously not playing their part in ensuring quality service delivery. So, I will continue to pay my GPL bill on time, every time.
I recognize the value of your point, Mom. You were right.
Welcome back. Guyana has recorded 81 new cases of coronavirus and 1 additional death in the past 24 hours. The total number of deaths from the virus has climbed to 205, with 8 of those deaths being recorded in the past 9 days. Of the 81 new cases of COVID-19 in the country, 43 are from the Region 4 area, while Region 3 accounts for 26 new cases. The other 12 new cases are spread out across the other 8 administrative regions. Since the first case of the pandemic was recorded here a year ago, more than 8,900 new cases have been recorded. The total number of active cases in the country stands at over 500, and more than 8,200 persons have made full recoveries. The Ministry of Health has indicated that 743 tests were completed in the past 24 hours. But those tests include tests from the private health institutions that are offering antigen tests. There has been a consistent spike in completed tests since the U.S. started to require all travelers to present a negative COVID-19 test result before travel to the U.S. The Ministry of Health today started the administering of the COVID-19 vaccine to persons above the age of 60. Vaccination sites have been set up at health centers in every region, and seniors can now visit those centers to receive their COVID-19 vaccines. Additional locations are to be announced soon. In a notice last evening, the Ministry of Health said the vaccination drive will be done daily between the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Those wishing to take the vaccines must walk with their identification cards. The Ministry of Health has indicated that a COVID-19 vaccine is safe and will reduce the chance of persons becoming severely ill or hospitalized if they contract COVID-19. The majority of persons who have become severely ill and have died from COVID-19 in Guyana are seniors above the age of 60. The vaccination sites in Guyana are Mabaruma District Hospital and Port Kaituma Hospital in Region 1, the Charity Hospital and the Suddy Regional Hospital in Region 2, the Viridian Hoop Health Center in Region 3, the New Amsterdam Health Center in Region 6, Skeldon Regional Hospital also in Region 6, the Enmore Polyclinic in Region 4, the Bartica Health Center in Region 7, and the Madhya District Hospital in Region 8. In Region 10, the Kukwani Hospital, and in Region 9, the Latem Health Center and the Anai Health Center. As we mentioned earlier, other locations are to be added. Well, as the Ministry of Health rolled out its countrywide vaccination drive for persons 60 years and over today, Prime Minister Mark Phillips and his wife Mignon Phillips were among the first persons to get the jab. In a social media post, the Prime Minister said the first dose of the vaccine was administered to him and his wife at their official residence. The Prime Minister heads the COVID-19 task force. He used the opportunity to reassure the public that there is nothing to fear about the COVID-19 vaccines. The Prime Minister and his wife became the second set of political figures in the country to get a vaccine, following in the footsteps of former President Donald Ramotar, who took the vaccine earlier this week. News source understands that the Health Ministry has also offered vaccines to former President David Granger and Sam Hines. Later this week, Guyana will mark 1 year since the first coronavirus case and death were recorded. Guyana recently received some 100,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to assist the citizens in their fight against the virus. Another 100,000 doses are expected in the coming days. Weeks after the health minister disclosed that an investigation was launched into reports of fake COVID-19 test results being used by persons traveling internationally to and from Guyana, the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority has issued a stern warning to travelers contemplating of not going through the correct procedure. In a statement, the GCAA said persons found presenting forged COVID-19 test results for international travel purposes will be prosecuted by the police, fined $250,000, and will be prevented from flying in the future. Further, those persons who are found with the forged test results will see their names being published on a no-fly list. When the government opened the airports last year, several measures were put in place for incoming passengers. Incoming passengers were mandated to provide negative PCR test results before their travel to Guyana. If the test results exceeded 72 hours but was within 5 days, the traveler will be required to take another test when they arrive in Guyana. A few weeks ago, the U.S. issued a policy of its own, requiring all travelers to the U.S. to undergo testing for COVID-19 before travel to the U.S. There are reports locally of a number of persons attempting to present fake COVID-19 test results for travel, forcing the decision to institute the fines and other measures. The government has alerted airlines to be on the lookout for persons who may present those forged COVID-19 test results. The sale of fake COVID-19 test results has already been unearthed in several other countries, and governments have been forced to step up, calling the practice a grave public health risk. Well, a rousing prayer by the chaplain of the Guyana Police Force against the spirits of corruption, racism, and bribery in the force has cost him that job. The Guyana Police Force today confirmed that it has severed ties with Pastor Patrick Dulachan as the force's chaplain. The pastor served as the chaplain of the Guyana Police Force for several years. While the police force has not provided any official reason for his ouster, senior officers have indicated to news source that his removal was linked to a recent prayer. During last week's opening of the Police Officers Conference, Pastor Dulachan doled out an opening prayer that left the top brass of the force and many of the invited guests surprised. While they all said amen at the end of the prayer, many of the senior officers were not happy with the characterization of the force by the man of God. In his prayer, Pastor Dulachan prayed against the spirits of corruption, bribery, and racism that he said exists in the Guyana Police Force.
We lift the Guyana Police Force before you. And Father, today, if we are honest, we're able to say that this force is hemorrhaging right now. We stand in the gap and we confess the sins of this noble organization. We confess every spirit of racism in this organization. We confess the spirit of corruption and bribery. We confess the spirit of injustice, and we declare, oh God, even now, above all, we confess the disunity, and we pray, oh God, that right now, that this force is so fragmented that unless you help this force will continue to be in trouble.
And that was his last prayer for the Guyana Police Force. The police force has since announced the appointment of former Assistant Commissioner Reverend Eric Bussant as its new chaplain. He will be doing the prayers from now on. The New Building Society Limited has officially received the full approval from the government to increase its mortgage ceiling. The measure was outlined in the 2021 national budget. With the new measure in place, persons looking to build their own homes can now borrow up to $15 million from the NBS, an increase from the previous ceiling of $12 million. At other institutions, persons can now borrow up to $12 million in low-income housing loans, an increase from $10 million. In brief remarks, Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh lauded the NBS for the role it continues to play in affording Guyanese home ownership. He pointed out that the bank has made the process easy for thousands of families to access loans at low interest rates.
I would like to congratulate the NBS on the remarkable role that it has played over the years in facilitating families being able to get loans to construct their own homes. We congratulate, I'm sure that I speak on behalf of all of the people of Guyana when I thank the society the board of the society for taking the decision that you took with respect to the interest rate adjustments that you announced just now. And I urge you to continue very aggressively now that the housing program is back on track, now that we are going to be distributing all of these house lots, 10,000 house lots in a year. I would urge NBS to take all of the appropriate steps to ensure that you grab an appropriate share of that market of new business that will be emerging.
In handing over the approval document to NBS Chairman Floyd McDonald, the Finance Minister noted that it is a testament of the importance placed in ensuring home ownership and his government's commitment towards home ownership. Mr. McDonald noted that the NBS has moved to adjust its interest rates to encourage more persons to take advantage of its services.
This is in keeping with our mandate to ensure that Guyanese can acquire ready and low-cost financing and therefore become home owners. Society, Minister, is indeed appreciative of the increased ceiling approved by the government. We know that our collaborative efforts, along with the Ministry of Housing, will be bound to an improved standard of living for all Guyanese, something which all of us desire.
The Minister of Housing and Water, Colin Crowell, in brief remarks also reiterated the government's plan to make available some 50,000 house lots for Guyanese to build their own homes. Crowell pointed out that the ministry's efforts are matched with measures by the central government.
This signals, from government's perspective, our deep underlying intention of ensuring that we bring greater relief to our homeowners, potential borrowers, but also walking the walk. And you've seen the measures that have been announced at Budget 2021, starting, of course, with the emergency budget in September of last year, where you have a number of measures that have been introduced to encourage greater home ownership.
The minister also announced that in the coming weeks, the ministry plans to ink several contracts for infrastructure development and housing schemes across the country in a bid to accelerate the government's housing drive.
Guyana, we've been through it all.
But as a people, we have
Weathered every storm.
And risen to every challenge.
Because it is the people of Guyana
that gives it its strength.
All the people, regardless of race, class, or religion.
We are one people, one strength.
And now is our time. A time to rise. Together, we rise.
Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guyana Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guyana's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
This is Annie Bina. She's a clothing designer. She also likes to hang out with her friends. However, a life-changing event is about to occur. The mosquito that bit Annie Bina is infected with a tiny worm that causes lymphatic filariasis, also known as filaria. But what is filaria? Filaria is a disease that affects a person's lymphatic system, causing legs, arms, breasts, or scrotum to swell and eventually remain in a swollen state that cannot go back to normal. Filaria shows no symptoms during the early years. Untreatable chronic symptoms can appear as late as 20 years after infection. Since there are no symptoms in the beginning, most infected persons do not know they're infected, like Annie Bina. When the symptoms begin to appear, nothing will be able to make them disappear. Are you sure that you've not been infected like Annie Bina? What can you do then since you see no symptoms? Take your pills. Prevention is the best cure. A message from the Ministry of Health in collaboration with PAHO WHO.
to the impacts of the global pandemic, COVID-19, across our nation, essential organizations like us have chosen to adopt innovative approaches to meet the emerging needs of our customers while protecting our employees. Here are some quick tips to make managing your GPL bill easier while we practice social distancing. To register for electronic billing, you can use the e-billing tab on your website. To access your bill balance, you can use 4 options: the website live chat at gpl.net, the online inquiry on our website under billing, SMS Freedom by texting your GPL reference number to 624-0400 or 608-8400, or call our call center at 226-2600. A message from the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated.
Across the region right now, Trinidad and Tobago will receive only a third of the first batch of vaccines allocated to it by the COVAX facility come this month end. During a virtual news conference yesterday, the Minister of Health, Terence Dialsing, said they would have had to wait until May to receive the full quota of 100,800 doses originally promised. Instead, he said the ministry decided to take a smaller batch of 33,600 doses up front. PAHO's 3-month window for the delivery of the vaccines was not previously disclosed to the public. In its initial announcement of the allocation back in January, the Ministry of Health in Trinidad said the country was allocated an initial 100,000 to 120,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine via the COVAX facility. The first allocation of the COVID-19 vaccine will be delivered to Trinidad and Tobago by the end of March. Health systems in most of Brazil's largest cities are close to collapse because of COVID-19 cases, its leading health institute warns. More than 80% of intensive care unit beds are occupied in the capitals of 25 of Brazil's 27 states. Experts warn that a highly contagious variant in Brazil may have knock-on effects in the region and beyond. Brazil is a threat to humanity, said the head of the health agency. Brazil has recorded more than 266,000 deaths and 11 million cases of COVID-19 since the pandemic began. It has the second highest number of deaths in the world after the US and the third highest number of confirmed cases. And finally, at this time, international news. The BBC reports that Tanzania's President John Magufuli is being treated in a hospital in Kenya and is in a critical condition, according to the country's opposition leader. He had coronavirus and had a cardiac arrest, the opposition leader said. The president, who has not been seen in public for 11 days, has faced criticism for his handling of COVID-19. The East African nation has not published its coronavirus cases since May and refuses to buy vaccines. The 61-year-old president has called for prayers and herbal-infused steam therapy to counter the virus. Earlier this month, at the funeral for a top presidential aide, the president said that Tanzania had defeated COVID-19 since last year and would win again this year. The aide died hours after the vice president of the country's semi-autonomous islands of Zanzibar, who was being treated for COVID-19. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.